Foster.
Madam Speaker, thank you. As a List MP, my constituency I see as being from Cape Reinga to somewhere south of Stewart Island, and I get the privilege of meeting
fairly local.
It's very local, but meeting lots of wonderful people all over our beautiful country, and often it's wonderful to be able to help out some of those at a community or organisational level. Jamie Arbuckle here and I both visited the Upper Selwyn Huts just south of Christchurch last June. It's located next to the Selwyn River, just south of Christchurch, a short distance from Lake Ellesmere. It's a beautiful settlement of just under 100 houses, a place and a community to fall in love with, a place where everybody knows and supports each other, the way I imagine New Zealand used to be. It's sited on a Crown Reserve and managed as a local purpose reserve by the Selwyn District Council as a hut settlement. But the whole settlement at that stage was under threat of eviction by their own council. Now, that settlement first began as a fishing village established by the people of Christchurch for fishing. The first fishing box there was in 1888, and it became a reserve in 1895 dedicated for fishing huts. It became a popular holiday spot, built tennis courts and lots of infrastructure, and people started over time to live there, albeit for short periods. What was drawing them there is that the fishing was so good that in March 1927, the future King George VI and Queen Elizabeth fished to cast a line, and the Christchurch Star reported then His Royal Highness arrived at the Selwyn Huts at 1:30 p.m, remained there fishing until 6 p.m. So he obviously spent a lot of time there, and it's understood that though he did not meet with any degree of fortune, I understand that as a failed fisherman, he thoroughly enjoyed the outing. The community held picnics, sports days, gala days, bonfires, fireworks, concerts, fancy dress, racing, rowing racing, and so on. The huts became batches, and by the 1940s there was a shop, tea rooms and regular deliveries of meat, vegetables and even a community library. It increasingly became a place to stay for extended periods, which was accentuated after the Canterbury earthquakes. And now most of those are homes which are permanently occupied. But in 2019, the Selwyn Council determined that it would issue only short-term leases and then require the whole settlement to be removed because the wastewater system was at the end of its life. Jamie and I were asked to visit because the council had published a paper in March of 2024 with no engagement whatsoever with the Huts community that simply adhered to the 2019 decision, says you've got to go, even though the council had fixed or was fixing the wastewater system and the reason for removing them had no longer existed. The council decided to issue some pretty draconian deeds of licence and said you've got 5 years, we might give you another couple of 5 years and then you are gone. Now the reason they gave, not wastewater, was the potential risk to the settlement from sea level rise. So I wrote after our visit at length to the council and challenged them on multiple issues. I said that their reason for removing the settlement had changed, but they hadn't re-looked at whether the removal was still justified at all. They'd been unduly certain about the degree of sea level rise. They based their position on the most extreme possibilities, and they were acting prematurely to terminate the leases well before there was any risk of sea level rise impacting on the settlement. They used 100-year projections but said we've got to get rid of you in 15 years. Their own consultants on the matter, on the issue of sea level rise, concluded that even the most severe flooding event recorded did not result in any inundation of the settlement, and their consultants said the main message from this report is that climate futures are highly dependent on emission scenarios and therefore highly uncertain. And I proposed to them that they considered triggers as their near neighbours at Huranui were doing with the Amberley Beach community. They'd also failed in their self-acknowledged, and this was the council's self-acknowledged, legislative obligation to protect the welfare and interests of the hut owners and residents. The council itself said there were many vulnerable people resident in the hut settlement, and it expected evicted residents would likely end up on the wait list for Kaingora or the like. Several residents told us that their limited life savings were wholly tied up in their homes at Upper Selwyn Huts. And when the council then said that the government was not investing enough in social housing in the Selwyn district, it made their argument look pretty fragile. They'd also mischaracterised the consultation as merely of medium significance, even though they were proposing to take people's homes away. And I said, I think that constitutes high significance under their own significant policy and the consultation requirements of the Local Government Act. And their officers also misrepresented the Reserves Act maximum lease term in the council paper, and they failed to tell the councillors about the ability to renew the leases. Long story short, Madam Speaker, the council acknowledged that it had got its processes badly wrong. They paused their processes the following month, agreed to engage with the Upper Selwyn Huts community, engaged an independent consultant, and there was ongoing consultation for the next wee while. And eventually that consultation concluded with a full day of oral hearings in August this year, which I joined by Zoom. Would have loved to be there, but I had to be in hospital that day. And by that stage, the council's reason for eviction had again completely changed. It was now fire safety. The residents told story after story about their connection to the place, and the councillors would have had a house of stone not to be moved I had the privilege of summing up, and the council moved 180 degrees. That community is now there, and it has the right to stay there. And we had the pleasure, Madam Speaker, we had the pleasure of joining for 130 years celebration, knowing they will still be there for 130 years.